Here's how to spot a layoff at your company, and you can even use some of these points to determine if you may be getting fired or not. I decided to go over these 10 points because I know how important it is for people to start determining what's going to be happening at work, um, and how to be more proactive about it instead of getting blindsided, which sucks. So look, let's get right into it. Number one is if they start asking for a list of your tasks or accomplishments for the month or for the quarter. I'm not asking for that run-of-the-mill list that they usually ask for, that they can either pull themselves or ask you for a quick rundown of what you've done for the month or the quarter. I'm asking for the specific one. Here's what I mean. Now, I've been in tune with this for a while because I had some jobs in the past where I didn't track any of my metrics and I didn't track my performance, and it backfired on me. And I was young, of course, and for some silly reason, I just assumed they all have it tracked, so I don't need to track anything. They have everything I'm doing, they have on their end, which was obviously super dumb. But as I've gotten older, I've made sure that the past few companies I've worked for, that I know how to track my performance in every single way. And I would say to my manager, okay, now I know how to track the metrics that are in front of me that I can see. What about the metrics I can't see? What about the metrics that you have to provide for your leadership? And as you get to know your manager and they start trusting you more, they'll provide you with that information. And they'll provide you with that information because they'll want to keep you around because you make their lives easier. But here's the thing, if you have weekly or monthly meetings with your leaders, like I said, you'll go over that stuff anyway. It's par for the course, no matter where you are. However, if they ask you to list out things you've done for the month or the quarter, that's extremely specific, like they need certain email chains of people you've emailed externally or internally. They want you to take screenshots of any notes that you've added to a project or an account specifically and attach it to a document. Or they're accessing certain things that you generally only oversee, or that they generally don't ask to oversee, like your inbox, then you're in trouble. So the best thing you can do before it gets to that point is just be proactive as much as you can about staying on top of your own performance metrics. So keep documentations of all of your wins, all of your successes, even if you don't think it's a big deal. I had to learn that. Even if you don't think it's a big deal, document it anyway. Put everything down. So, for example, if you exceeded revenue expectations for the quarter, or you completed a project early, or you roll out a new project that made your internal or your external customers' jobs easier, etc. Write it all down and keep track of it. And you can either send this information to your leader, your manager on a regular basis, or you can create a document and provide your manager access to the document so they can just access it whenever they want to see it, which is what I prefer. That way I could just go in and I can track my team members' metrics and performance on a regular basis, and I don't have to reach out or to anybody and say, hey, I just want to double check, see if you got this done, or can you let me know what the deadline is to roll out this project for a client? I don't have to do all that. They're just putting it in that documentation, and I could just go in and take a look at it. Makes it so much easier for them and for me. Now, look, I understand you're busy, but I'm going to tell you this. I think doing this and tracking your metrics is just as important. I'd even argue more important than the job itself, because being a hard worker and being good at your job is one thing, but that's something that only you know if you're not tracking everything. Your main job is to make sure everybody else, especially the ones who determine if you're going to work somewhere or not, or determine if you get a raise or not, or determine if you get promoted or not, to make sure they know how hard you're working. That is key. Now, this isn't foolproof, of course, because some departments just get wiped out completely and there's nothing you can do about that. But if a company's laying off based on performance, which is becoming more and more common nowadays, this is how you cover yourself. So the second point I want to mention is that other people are getting laid off at your company. This seems obvious, but you'll be surprised how many people say, "Woo, glad it's not me. Glad I'm not the one who got laid off. Like, thank goodness my boss told me I'm good." And then they go right back to doing their jobs. I'm like, "What?" You have to look at the big picture. The first things I'm going to ask is, why are they laying people off? Is the company, are they just trimming the fat because they're going public? Are they trimming the fat because they're going bankrupt? Are we getting acquired? Layoffs mean different things depending. So just because you're good today doesn't mean you'll be good next week or next month. Keep that resume ready and always look for opportunities elsewhere. I know it's the last thing people want to do when they have a job, especially when you get off work and it's Friday and you want to hang out with your friends or you're just straight up tired. The last thing you want to do, but you should be passively looking often. And you should be consistently updating your resume. I'd say update your resume once a month. Just take a look at it, see if you need to update any skills, add some new accomplishments, so on and so forth. Just really quick, and then that way, if you do need to really start aggressively looking for a job, you don't have to stress so much about writing your resume from scratch. You already have it taken care of. Number three is you're in a non-essential department. Now I'm going to keep my opinions to myself about what departments I think are non-essential. Every company is different, so I'll let you determine what you think is non-essential at your company as far as departments go. I will say this, the chill departments that everyone's envious of, and say they just seem to kind of relax all the time. They're always getting coffee, they're always hanging out and talking. You know the departments. Those chill departments are usually the first on the chopping block when there's a layoff. So if you find yourself getting laid off from companies often, start looking at your skills and seeing what's transferable to departments that tend to stick around longer and start going for them. Is it more work in the non-fun departments? Yes. Will it keep you in a job longer? Absolutely. Number four, mergers, acquisitions, the company is hiring a C-level with an IPO background, things like that. Attend those corporate meetings, attend those town hall meetings. Usually they're not saying much, and a lot of times the answers they provide are quite political. But you can learn a lot by what those C-levels aren't saying. Meaning, if somebody asks a question and they provide an answer perfectly packaged with a beautiful bow on it, they're saying a lot without really saying anything. That's what you need to be focused on. That's where the changes are happening. And this is why it's important to get to know people from other teams. You have to get out of that bubble, especially if you work from home. A good way to do this is to tell someone from another team or another department that you want to learn more about what they do so you can find ways to collaborate or better ways to be of assistance to them. They'll like that. But you have to keep up with these people that you meet and you have to actually help them and, say what you mean what you say. It doesn't have to take up a lot of your time if they ask for help. Most of the time it's something you can't fix anyway and you're just going to refer them to somebody else. But the point is that you want to be that person, that trusted person that they reach out to. You want to be that trusted advisor. Once they know you're that trusted advisor, they'll start trusting you and helping you more. Remember, if there are any Nepo babies in the company or anything like that, they're friends with one of these people you're meeting with. This is how you get information that's not in a newsletter or those town halls or those corporate meetings, if you know what I mean. Number five is the stock market. Do you have to be a guru? No. Just keep a bit of an eye out on what's going on a general level. So not so much the companies that are tanking, but more so what companies are doing well in spite of the economy. So even in a bad economy, there are companies still doing well. Remember our good friend 2020, COVID? Companies were going under left and right. But guess who wasn't? Zoom, because so many people had to work from home. So just casually pay attention to these things, and there will be a lot of changes from here on. And that'll help you get an idea of what industries are up and coming and which companies are hiring so that you can get in where you fit in. Number six is they start cutting funding, which is why it's important to be a part of committees at work. Not because you want the extra work, of course. Nobody wants that. But you want to build relationships with people in other departments. You want to get the tea. You want to know what's coming. They'll start by cutting funding right away in the committee you're in. You'll hear about it in your meeting. Then other committees that you collaborate with will start talking about it too. That's how you'll know. That's exactly what I saw at the last company I worked for. And I was like, uh-oh. Guess what started happening after that? Layoffs. They started cutting a bunch of people. I think they cut like 2,100 people or 2,200 people, something like that. Number seven is clients or external customers will start asking you what's going on. They'll start telling you what they heard, what they've been hearing. So this is why it's good to build relationships with VPs, C-levels, so on and so forth. They're in clubs amongst each other. Their job is to be in the know. And believe me, they hear everything. These leaders tend to be a part of the same associations, attend the same charity events, and they're just generally in the same circles. Build relationships with these people and stop looking at them like they're untouchable. Just reach out and start talking to them. I would say this is the biggest perk of working in an office as opposed to working from home because you run into VPs and C levels in more of a casual setting, like the cafeteria or leaving the office to go walk around the corner for a quick coffee or at happy hour. This is more challenging to do when you work remotely, which brings me back to talking about joining committees and why that's so important. Number 8 is they start cutting the traveling budget. Now, depending on which department you're in, it may not be a big deal because it doesn't affect you, but it does affect you because it's cost cutting and you have to pay attention to that. And so the people you're talking to in other departments, as you are earning trust in these different departments, go, hey, did you know they cut our traveling budget? We don't have access to as many perks anymore as we used to, or my boss is having a hard time getting my trip to California approved, or whatever the case may be. That's something that's important for you to know. The worst is when they try to make you fly in the same day and fly out instead of getting a hotel. That's the worst. I've never done that. I always tell them no, absolutely not. I need to get there a day before so I can prep, and I need to leave the day after. But that's my own personal thing. But this is even worse if you're in certain positions like I'd say sales positions, leadership positions, tech positions where traveling is most important. That can make your job more difficult, and that can make maintaining relationships with those clients, especially the ones who bring in a lot of revenue, more difficult. Number 9, your boss avoids meeting with you. They're avoiding you because something's wrong. You should never wait to get to this point, so focus on the previous points I mentioned earlier before you end up here. Number 10 is you start getting one-word answers from a leader who's generally talkative to you and informative. Similar to number 9 in point, that something's off. Like I said, don't wait to get here. People don't like confrontation, and they don't want to tell you you're on the chopping block until the 11th hour, of course, and they'll tell you they can't do anything about it. And they've done this because they either didn't want to give you the heads up or they've been instructed not to, which more often than not is the case. So just keep these things in mind, nothing to scare anybody or anything like that. It's just always good to know what to expect because when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That's all for now.